Well, before I tell you my story from 6 months ago, let me introduce myself. My name's Henry, and I'm 33. I'm a positive, friendly guy with a lot of friends and an easygoing personality, but I've never had much luck when it comes to dating. To be honest, relationships have always been a struggle for me. This story began on a typical sunny morning when I was riding my bike around town. I didn't live in the nicest neighborhood, but all my friends were there, so I never thought about moving. It was hot out, so I stopped by a cafe to get a cold drink. And that's where I met the beautiful Lucy. She was a petite blonde with model-like features. I couldn't get a word out at first, but she noticed me and decided to start the conversation. 10 minutes after her first
Hello!
I managed to respond. She was incredible, sweet, and kind. I knew right away that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, something sent from above, and I couldn't let it slip away. We started spending more time together. I couldn't understand what she saw in me. I wasn't well off, but she seemed happy with me, and I was having a great time, too. The only thing I didn't like about her was her terrible friends. Some of them were even drug addicts. I tried to introduce her to my friends, but she wouldn't let go of the people who were clearly pulling her down. Overall, things were great, and we were having a wonderful time. Then, one day, after we'd been together for a year, I got the shocking news. She told me she was pregnant. I didn't know how to react, but I loved her so much that, after the initial shock, I was thrilled. We started planning our future together, picking out a name for the baby, not even knowing if it would be a boy or a girl. Now I'm writing this story on Reddit with tears streaming down my face from the memories. To be as open as possible, I'm glad you're here to share my story. Month after month went by, and her belly grew. We prepared my place for the baby, and everything was fine until she suddenly felt sick during her 8th month of pregnancy. I wanted to call the doctor, but she stopped me, saying it was normal, just practice contractions. But I could see that something was wrong and that she was trying hard to hide the pain from me. That evening, she passed out. I rushed her to the hospital and found out she'd been using hard drugs during the pregnancy. Looking back, I guess it happened whenever she was around her old friends. I was heartbroken. The doctor made it clear that there was a strong chance the baby wouldn't be healthy, though he couldn't say for sure. When Lucy regained consciousness, she stopped talking to me. There was only a week until the due date. I was shattered, my heart ripped to pieces. I wanted to believe this was just a nightmare and that she would wake me up any second with her usual,
Good morning, my sweet Henry.
just like always. I spent that week in agony. When the due date arrived, the doctor called and said I could come see my baby. We named him Mike. I rushed out of the house, desperate to see my little boy. I was finally a dad. It was such a beautiful day. When I arrived to pick up Mike, the doctor immediately informed me that he had autism and serious health issues. But I didn't care. I just wanted to hold him and see my son. That same day, I found out he'd actually been born the day before. Lucy had asked the doctor not to tell me, but he finally called because Lucy had left Mike alone in the hospital and just disappeared. No one had seen her since. I brought Mike home, realizing there would be many challenges ahead. After buying the first round of medications for Mike, I knew I'd need a second job and a babysitter, as Lucy hadn't answered my calls for 2 days. The way Lucy had treated me hurt deeply, but 80% of that pain was soothed by the love I felt for my son. I lived for him from that moment on. Life moved forward, with busy days chasing down medications and joyful moments with Mike at home. 3 years went by, and Mike was doing much better. He was a little behind other kids his age, but he'd made a lot of progress, and I was so proud of him. He was a happy kid and loved baseball, so we often went to games together. My day began with dropping Mike off at daycare and then working until late, always pushing myself to the limit. Then one evening, after a long day, I went to pick Mike up, and it turned into an unforgettable day. They told me that his mom had already picked him up. My heart dropped, my breathing grew shallow, and I started sweating from the sudden panic. My hands shook as I wondered what to do. I tried calling Lucy for the first time in ages, but she declined the call immediately. Then I got a text from her.
Want Henry back? Send $500 to my account.
I was shocked. Fortunately, I'd just received my monthly paycheck, so I sent the money without even considering calling the police. After I transferred the money, I got a notification with an address.
Thanks, you can pick up Mike here.
It was the address of a restaurant. As I started calling a cab, I realized it was the same place where Lucy and I first met. My heart pounded even harder. I hadn't been back there in years, not since I moved out of the old neighborhood. 20 minutes later, I arrived. Even through the cab's window, I could see Mike standing outside the cafe, holding something in his hands. I ran to him and hugged him, promising myself that I'd never let this happen again. I took the envelope from Mike and pulled out a note. It had only 4 words written in black ink.
I never loved you.
I still can't quite describe the emotions I felt that night. I just stood there, outside the restaurant, holding my son's hand in one and Lucy's note in the other. I lifted my head to the sky and let out a deep sigh into the dark night above. Mike and I went home, and I knew it was time to take serious action. To keep the story short, I'll say that now I'm driving to another state. Mike's sitting next to me, looking out the window, and we have some nice music playing. I think I made the right choice. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to click that button. I put a lot of effort into searching through Reddit so you can enjoy the stories I've found just for you. You already know what to do. See you in the next video, ****.